Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about DDP versus Strickland 2. I just finished watching their first match a little while back, and I got to tell you guys, it was a very close fight. I know we talked about the post-fight analysis. I'm not going to go through the controversial, a lot of people thought Strickland won. I had thought DDP won. I had picked DDP for this fight again. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm picking DDP again. I picked him the first time. And I'm picking him again. I got to tell you why. Yes, Sean started with a beautiful jab. Round one, I gave Sean Strickland round number one. And he had a beautiful jab going and everything was looking good. However, DDP was figuring him out. DDP was adjusting. DDP has the ability to pick up the pace, to finish strong. And DDP is much more diverse. It seemed like all Strickland was doing was working the jab and the teep, the jab, the teep. A little bit of kicking here and there from Strickland. A little bit of throwing the right hand, but not too much. I think he over relies on the jab and his teep. DDP had kicks. DDP tried spinning attacks. DDP was switching stances. DDP was throwing overhand rights, overhand lefts. DDP was scoring takedowns, body lock takedowns, trips. He was much more diverse. I think DDP is busier. I think DDP is more diverse. And DDP, as we all know, he can finish. Sean Strickland is usually unable. He's just doesn't seem to be able to finish. Let me look at his record. Let me see. I can't remember Sean Strickland finishing a fight in recent memory. Okay, now I know he's finished a few fights in UFC, but not much. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Okay, he's 16-6 in UFC. Incredible record. To have 16 wins in UFC is quite astonishing. He was world champion. He beat Adesanya. He beat the great Adesanya. He beat Paulo Costa by split decision. Then before that he beat Adesanya by unanimous decision. He beat Magomedov by punches in round 2. That's right, Magomedov got really tired. That was a great finish. That was a great job here by Strickland. That was a nice finish. He beat Nasruddin by unanimous decision. He beat Jack Hammerson by split decision. He beat Uriah Hall, unanimous decision. Jotko by unanimous decision. Brandon Allen, he finished him in round 2 by punches. Jack Marshman, unanimous decision. He beat Nordin Taleb by ground and pound in round 2. He beat Court McGee by unanimous decision. Tom Breese by split. Alex Garcia by punches in round 3. Igor Arojo, unanimous decision. Look, he's got a lot of fights in UFC. And he's got 14 wins by decision, 4 by submission, and 11 by KO or TKO. Now, I can't really remember him doing a sub. Let's see here. What was his last sub? What was this? Rear naked choke here. Okay, he has a rear naked choke. What else does he got? Rear naked choke, 2 rear naked chokes I see here. Rear naked choke. Okay, so I guess he likes the rear naked choke. He's got 2 of them on his resume here. There's a third one. Yeah. 4 rear naked chokes. Okay, so always rear naked choke. Okay, so he's not the type of guy who's going to guillotine. He's not going to do anaconda. He's not going to do a kimura on DDP. DDP doesn't have to worry about any of that. DDP doesn't have to worry about takedowns. So what I'm trying to say here is I think that DDP is going to bring too many attacks. He's going to be threatening the wrestling. He's going to be threatening the kicks, a variety of kicks, spinning attacks, switching sides, pressure. He's more active. He's just got so much more diversity and athleticism. The one thing that Sean Strickland has way better than DDP is he's got a greater jab. He's got a much better jab than DDP. DDP doesn't really jab much. But DDP seems physically very strong. He seemed like he was able to overpower Strickland a few times. Now, Strickland did a great job of getting back up to his feet. But in a tight fight, when you get taken down and you get controlled, just even a little bit, in a close round, that's all there was for the judges to have. That could tip the fight in his favor. Now, in the 5th round, you could see Duplessis dig deep, and Sean was kind of coasting. His corner wasn't happy with him. His corner, Strickland's corner, was telling him, "We're not happy with that last round. You got to go get it now." And he didn't kick it up a notch. DDP kicked it up a notch. Now, why would the world champion at the time not empty it all? He doesn't fight that way. He's got to find almost a perfect shot. Sean Strickland, I think, waits too long to exchange. He's not as reckless, and he's not as hungry as DDP in that sense. DDP was willing to take shots. DDP was willing to be hurt to take a chance to win. Because here's the truth, guys. If you're winning 3 rounds, you don't need to fight so hard in round 4. You don't need to fight so hard in round 5. Take it very cautious. Be patient. Watch your exchanges. Exchange when it makes sense for you. However, if the fight is close or you're behind, now is the time. That's the time to get reckless. If you're 3 rounds behind and you're going into the 5th, okay, because I think we can all agree Sean won round 1. The other rounds were tight, but I think a lot of people gave the following 3 rounds to DDP. Strickland had to dig deep, man. He had to change the game plan. I know he threw those windmill shots, those windmill punches, but that's not what I mean. I mean, you got to go left, right, left, right. You can't just go left, 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 deep, overhand right. No. You got to turn it into a brawl. You got to land one on the button. And if you get hit, you got to keep going. You got to be more reckless. Why do you got to be more reckless? Because that's how you get a finish. Now, it's more risk, more reward. It's almost like a unavoidable law of fighting. The more you want to finish, the more you can get finished. Now, if I'm winning, I wouldn't take the risk. If I'm winning and I'm winning 3 rounds to 1, and I'm going in the 5th, why would I take a risk? Why would I do anything crazy? Sean Strickland was more risk averse than DDP, and I like that about DDP. I think DDP finished strong. He got more significant in his wrestling and takedowns at the end of the fight, which shows to me he's got the cardio to do 5 rounds. That was a bit of a question mark in that fight. We didn't know if DDP has the conditioning, the gas. I mean, he looked tired in a few other fights. He looked a little bit tired for me. I found he looked a little bit tired in his Adesanya fight before he got to finish. But he dug deep. You know, he digs deep. So that's my analysis. I think DDP is too diverse. He's got tricky kicks. He throws question mark kicks. He switches stances. He punches. Has much more variety in his punches and kicks. And he wrestles. Whereas Strickland, he's looking for that perfect punch, which he landed on Adesanya. In round 1, he landed a beautiful right hand on Adesanya. I mean, he could hurt somebody. He hurt Adesanya. He can hurt a man. However, DDP is a very difficult man to hurt. He's a very difficult man to hurt. And I just find Strickland is too... He is too predictable. We know he's going to jab. We know he's going to teep. We know he's going to lean back and defend. You know where the target is. You know where it's going to be. The second time around, I think DDP is going to have a much better time because you're going to get the same old Strickland. He's super efficient. He's super dangerous. He has great defense. However, there are no surprises. Whereas DDP will keep Strickland guessing the whole fight. All right, guys, with that said, let's talk about the Strickland DDP fight. And I want to just stay on this topic for now, and then we can switch to any other fight or any other topic, anything on training. I'm not going to stay too long on this fight because this is a rematch, and I think we've done this before. So I'm just going to wait for you guys to give me comments and questions on DDP. I want us to break this down together, guys. Let me know also how you see the fight. Strickland wins via pressure boxing. That's from Rainbow. Rainbow, you're right. He's a good pressure boxer. He's very good with volume. If you get a little bit tired, he's all over you. However, if he tries to pressure DDP has more power. He has more finishing ability. And he's going to run into DDP's takedown. So I think he's going to be cautious because of the power. And I think he's going to be cautious because of the takedowns. So he's not going to be able to just kind of mow him down with high volume punching. It's going to be unlikely. For that to happen, he's going to have to hurt DDP early. And that's still, it's very possible. It's still not like a given. You know, if you're fighting Pereira, I'd be like, okay, well, Pereira's going to hurt him sooner or later. And DDP can't, he's got to be on his toes all the time. Strickland's not the type of guy who punishes people with 1 or 2 shots. He needs a lot of punches to get people running and hurting. I just think DDP is very robust. He's already a very robust individual. And Strickland is not that much of a finisher, whereas DDP's finished everybody except Strickland. Let me double check that, but I think he's finished in all his wins. It's always finishes. I can't remember one other fight he fought other than Strickland that went to a decision. Let me see here. 8-0 in UFC. Incredible. That's just that alone is just incredible. 9 KOs, 11 submissions, 2 decision wins. Okay, let's see here. Yeah. No, finish. Look at this. Finish. It looks incredible. Finish. Guillotine. By the way, he has an incredible guillotine choke, which is crazy. It just tells me he's super strong. Like, he looks physically strong. Rear naked choke. Okay, he lost to a guillotine once upon a time. Let's see here. Rear naked choke. Of course, he's finished out the Sunday with rear naked choke. He's a choke guy. Okay, punches. All right, so I mean, there it is. I mean, the guy's finished literally everybody. He's literally finished everybody. Everybody he's ever fought with 2 decisions. Only 2 decisions. Everybody in UFC, he's finished, except Strickland. Outside of UFC, there's only one other guy that went to decision with him. That's incredible. One of my students beat him once upon a time. Let's see here. Decision. He fought Brad Tavares. 2 decisions in UFC. He fought Brad Tavares to a decision. That's right. I watched that fight. I had forgotten about that fight. He has 2 decisions in UFC, 6 finishes in UFC. 6. That's incredible. Really, really incredible. Strickland was robbed. That's from Black Ops. I don't think he was robbed. I watched the fight. I know we went through this, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I mean, it was a tough and very close fight. I had it for DDP, but I see why people are saying it was a robbery. It was a close fight. It was a very difficult fight to call. Pitter Patter Strickland. That's from Rainbow. That's not a bad style. Some guys really make that work. It's going to be a very difficult style to deal with, a pitter patter, because they don't get tired and they're hitting you from all different angles. And if you can't keep up, it's like an avalanche. Asking Strickland to only grapple is a death wish for most. That's from One Adam. I don't know what you mean by that, because he doesn't really grapple too much. He's always like counter grappling, escaping, getting to his feet. He's more of a boxer, right? He wants to box. He does throw kicks, but he's mainly a boxer, and he doesn't want to get taken down. And he's a hard guy to take down. It just seems that DDP was able to get it to the ground, especially in the 5th round. He got it down to the ground in a big way. Trump is president. Diversity is dead. Sean by KO coach. That's from Black Ops. So I guess Trump is president now. Strickland's gonna win. Maybe Trump is gonna ask DDP to take a dive. We're gonna talk about Trump later, I'm sure, because he's all over the news. But for now, let's focus on this fight. I won't stay on this fight too long, because I know we've done this fight before. Hey, coach, when is Strickland coming to train at TriStar? That's from Charles. I don't think ever we will cross paths. Zayd, inshallah. DDP is stronger than Strickland also. That's from Charles Biddle. That's true. You see his fights, man. He has a lot of strength. He's really a physical guy. Like, his double legs, they seem like football tackles. Like, it's incredible. His double leg is really, really powerful. Like, he just drives through the legs. He lifts guys. I mean, if you guys see all his fights, all his takedowns, he has trips too. He has headlock throws. What he did to Till was incredible. Like, just kept pummeling him. It's insane. He looks like a incredible athlete. Looks super strong, super dangerous, very physical. I think he's gonna definitely score takedowns. And this time, hopefully, if he's developing his pins, he's gonna be able to pin Strickland this time. Hopefully for him. I mean, if I was him, I would be like working on my pins, because I feel like he wasn't able to control Strickland in top position. Strickland was doing a good job to scramble and get back to his feet. Strickland struggles against aggressive opponents. Look at how he did against Jared Cannonier. If you play his game and let him be defensive, you lose. That's from George. Well, he's not an easy guy to hit. That's why I think a lot of people, you might think they're being defensive, but really it's just because he's really hard to hit, because he's always kind of leaning back. But those kind of guards, they're really good until you close the distance on them. if you get close enough, you can really hammer the body. And you see DDP, he figured it out after round 3. He was trying to hit Strickland, and Strickland kind of did his lean and his flare. And then DDP went to the body. Pop, pop. He hit it like a double hook to the body. It's a shoe shine. I teach it in A Man's Guide to Throwing a Punch. Guys, by the way, use promo code HOLIDAY55 off. It's on the bottom of your screen. It's in the description. Get 55% off anything on jujiclub.com. I just released a half guard passing video. Check it out. It's an incredible video. Make sure to punch in the promo code HOLIDAY55 off. It's on the bottom of your screen. Make sure to get strong and stable knees, strong and stable back. Those videos, I've sold them all over the world. They will fix your back. They will fix your knees. They will get you in great shape. Okay, guys, what can I say? He has a hard guard to hit. I think DDP started figuring it out. He started going to the body. He started doing shoe shines to the body. It was a beautiful, not body shots. He hit 2 beautiful body shots. It was just great. I thought it changed the tempo of the fight. Now, Strickland couldn't kind of just lean back anymore. He had to worry about his body, because believe me, those of you who do boxing, I know you know, but the people who've never boxed before, getting hit to the body, it's not a pretty thing. It really hurts. You could really takes away somebody's zap. You can really zap their energy, I should say. You can really hurt somebody, but also you zap their energy, because now when they want to punch, their ribs are aching, their diaphragm is not in a happy place, and you're like, I can't breathe well, I can't lift my arm, I want to put my arm, instinctually I want to cover my ribs, because they're sore, they're hurting, they're even possibly broken. It could be a very bad thing to take body shots from a guy like DDP. All right, guys, we got 76% voting for DDP. I don't know if we've ever had such a lopsided vote. Coach, do you believe the rumors of Islam moving up to 185? That's some arsh. I don't think he would do 185. 170 perhaps. If Bilal Muhammad were to lose his belt or anything like that, I think he would jump up and go for it. Maybe I'm hearing rumors of him fighting Topuria. That would be a mega fight. Those two at 155, I think it would probably be the biggest fight of 2025 easily. And no other card will compare. It's crazy because Strickland is thin as a wafer, but the body still work for DDP. He's pretty muscular. Strickland's pretty muscular. He's a muscular man. I wouldn't say he's thin like a wafer. No. He's a strong man. All right, guys, I'm going to do fights. I'm going to do questions on anything, okay? Anything. Fighting, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, other fights. Let's go. I think you guys are a little bit sleeping on this fight. I know it's because we've done it before, and it's a rematch fight. But I thought I would do it because I'm excited about the fights this weekend. I want to watch the show. And it was very close the first time. I just think this time DDP is going to win it by a convincing margin. Thoughts on Islam versus DDP? That's from DJ Drones. I think DDP is way too big. He's just way too big. I wouldn't do that fight. If I was Islam's corner or something, if I was working with Islam, I'd be like, don't do that fight. That's too dangerous. He's way too big. We're talking about a guy who's going to have 30, 40 pounds on you. It's way too much. Ilia or Islam, who wins? That's from Daniel Perret. Look, it's a tough fight. It's going to be a tough fight. I'm going to have to go through their footage. But just saying it like that, I'll pick Islam right now. And not just because I think he'll take Topuria down. I think it would be hard to take Topuria down because Topuria is shorter. It's hard to get underneath shorter guys. That's why he had trouble, or he scrambled really hard against Volkanovski. Being short in wrestling is an asset. Okay, it's an asset. And it's hard to get underneath somebody who's shorter than you. It's just, you have to shoot lower. But I still pick Makhachev. Why? Because I think he's a very powerful striker. And he's very good with the plum. So like a plum is like the Muay Thai clinch. A lot of you guys will call it Muay Thai clinch, where you punch somebody and then you grab them behind the head. Okay, he did it beautifully against Dustin Poirier. Really hurt him badly. I think he would catch Topuria. One, because Topuria is shorter and Topuria likes to slip punches. He likes to put his head down. And Islam Makhachev has a crazy good knee. He's a very good kneer. So I think he would get close enough to knee him, and that would turn into grappling, wrestling, clinching. He's very good at judo. He'll get in the legs as well. Okay, he's still, even though it's hard to get in the legs because he's shorter, Topuria, he'll still get in the legs. He got into when we say when I say get in the legs, I mean like shoot a double leg or a single leg. Okay, that's how we, in wrestling they say get in the legs. He'll still get to the legs, but it's just not as easy. Other than that, he's going to find the plum. He's going to find the clinch against the fence. From the clinch against the fence, he could take anybody down. Anybody. I would pick Makhachev. Think about it. Topuria fought Bryce Mitchell. He fought Emmett and didn't finish him. Now, he's a great finisher. But could you imagine Islam fighting Emmett or Bryce Mitchell, not getting them down to the ground and not finishing them? It was hard for me to see in my mind, because he's so much bigger and his grappling's phenomenal. Thoughts on Sean's antics and racism? That's from Ali. I'm not familiar too much. I see sometimes headlines of him saying stupid stuff. I think it's ridiculous. He does say like he's very an Islamophobe. He says bad stuff about us. He's completely ignorant. Somebody put up one of his tweets. I mean, he was just completely ignorant. Just completely just ignorance after ignorance after ignorance after ignorance. It's just like, I don't know if there's any talking to the guy, but I hope there is, because I mean, I'd have to pull up his tweet. Let's pull it up. Let's see here. Let's see. Sean Strickland tweet. There's just so many tweets of his. It's incredible. How do we find them? He gets into a lot of beefs with people, this guy. All right, let's see. I don't even know if I want to read this. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. Let me see something. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. Sean Strickland. Islam extremist, ... You mean people who actually follow the Quran's teachings? ? So anybody who follows the Quran is an extremist. It's not that we're moderate and a small portion of us are extremist. It's all of us. Anybody who believes in the Quran is an extremist, because the Quran is telling you to go to extremes. Okay, that's the most ignorant statement you could say. That's just so dumb, because actually the Quran says, do not go to extremes. It actually says that. It says the same thing. It says literally those words. Do not go in extremes. Stay on the moderate path. It's actually the opposite. The Quran says the opposite of what Sean Strickland says. Okay, so obviously he's never read the Quran. It doesn't surprise me at all. He goes on to say, Islam contributes nothing to the world besides violence and oppression. Okay, that's super ignorant. Okay, the golden age of science and mathematics was in Islam, under Islam. Islam had a period of coexistence, a period named the coexistence. Okay, but why? Because everybody was coexisting together. Man, I just can go on and on. The ignorance is incredible. It's not compatible with America and freedom. That's just, I'm sorry, just BS. That's just BS. Christians 50 years ago who were how Muslims are today, they were maybe not 50 years ago. Let's go 7 years ago. 70 years ago, Christians were like, hey, cover your body, don't dress too provocative, wait till marriage. They had all the same values we have. Okay, now they threw it out the window. Hollywood got into their television sets, and Hollywood, the internet kind of like pushed everybody into like, hey, go full liberal, go full OnlyFans, go full. And the world changed quite quickly, but he doesn't really know the most recent history of America. And by the way, in the Constitution, every religion is invited to America. He's so ignorant. It's just crazy. It's completely ignorant. America is not supposed to be about religion. There's supposed to be no religious test. You're supposed to be no religious test. You follow the law, you're okay. You could practice any religion you want in America. He's just completely ignorant. Just like dumb stuff. And I don't know why he goes into these topics where he has no knowledge. Like, why not at least go in a way that's humble? Why not be like, hey, I don't know much about Islam, but is it true what I hear? Islam does this. Maybe we can have a dialogue. But when somebody spews venom like that, it's like he wants to instigate. He wants friction. He wants one group to hate another. He's just spreading hatred and ignorance. That's what he's about. They contributed nothing to the world, dude. Don't get me started, man. Don't get me started on this. Okay. Now I have my criticisms of the Muslim world today. Okay, believe me, I wouldn't say the Muslim world is perfect. They're far from it. But I have many criticisms about every nation. Okay, I can criticize every nation. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, you guys are bad. Well, is there nothing bad about your nation to say? Of course, there's many bad things to say about your nation. I wonder what triggered him to write such a tweet or X or whatever you call it. I wonder what triggered him. I mean, like, was he in a conversation and then people were like, hey, like what? Or did he just wake up and like, hey, let me just write about Islam today. Let me just tweet about Islam today. Like, I wonder what was the context of that tweet. But whatever, I wouldn't spend any more time on it. It's just like pure ignorance. Just really honestly pure ignorance that I can't even like, I don't know. It's like talking to a child. Did Sean give the way for everyone to beat Izzy, or was it from all the damage from Alex? ? That's some Kato serious. Well, sometimes it happens, right? A guy seems unbeatable, then one guy beats him, and everybody believes he's beatable. It reminds me kind of Machida. At one point, he won the world title. He was undefeated. The first guy to beat him, then all of a sudden everybody's beating him, just beating him. I think it's a combination of everything. One, the mystique is gone, and two, we've been watching the champ for so long, we start to see what he does. Like, here's the thing. When you're the champ, it's harder to stay the champ than to become the champ. That's what they say all the time, right? And the reason why is because when you're the champ, everybody's watching your every move, your trainings, your this, your that, and they start figuring you out. But of course, when you become champ, you're like, oh, I'm much better than everybody. Nobody can touch me. Yeah, nobody can touch you right now, but if we keep watching you long enough, we kind of see your patterns. We start seeing your moves. We start to predict your moves. You're less surprising. Everybody's watching you. Guess what? You tried your favorite move, and we all saw it coming a mile away. It takes away a lot of your ability to use your favorite techniques because we know all about them now. So that's why it's harder to stay the champ, because everybody is studying your every move. Guys, don't forget, I'm always doing super chats and non-super chats. Okay. Respect coach, quick question. The mother of my child is very liberal, yet benefits from my traditional upbringing / role as being the head of the household. How do I proceed with this hypocrisy? That's from Sparky No Pay Pal. Sparky, my boy. First, you're gonna change your username, please. Sparky's not a good name for a man. But other than that, no, I'm just kidding. Keep it. It's cute. Okay, so your woman is very liberal. Here's the thing, okay, Sparky, you're in the same boat with the entire West. The women in the West are too liberal. They're too liberal. What does it mean, liberal? Well, liberal is code for like, I hate to say it, okay? Liberal is code for, liberal is code for what? What is it? I want the chat to tell me what liberal is code for. Because if I say it, it's going to become like a point of friction. Okay, I want the chat. I'm going to read it out. What is the word liberal? If I say the girl is liberal, what does it mean? What is it code for? It's happy-go-lucky, or Ramiro says loose. Soy, woke, sharmuta. That's a bad word. That's a really bad word, okay? You guys just think about a bad word that rhymes with the word door, and that's the Arabic word for, you know what? Liberal, free not to have any morals. That's from Ethernet Wizard. That's code for free not to have any morals. You don't have to be trustworthy, loyal, or whatnot. You're a liberal woman. You can do as you wish. What else we get? Progressive, not accountable, human rights, egotistical. Let's see. What else is code. What else is a liberal woman code for? Live and let live, antagonistic, not submissive. Not submissive, so you mean rebellious. She's going to rebel against her man. She's not going to obey her husband. She's not going to be like, hey, my husband, he's important. What he says is important. Rebellious, not submissive, for the streets. Yeesh, high body count. It's a code for high body count. That's a very... Who is this man who said this? Nitin. Nitin is very astute. He's moving to the head of the class. What else is there? Man and woman being equals, leaders of families. They're equal leader of family. You're right. You have a pilot and a pilot. You don't have a pilot and a co-pilot. She's not there to assist you. She's there to lead with you every step of the way. She's there to be co-president. 2 presidents. Okay, what else is there? Godless, fatherless. That's from one Adam. Adam thinks liberal women are usually atheists, which is not necessarily the case, but okay, it's more trending. Yeah, traditional women usually believe in God. You're right. Conservative, traditional, and liberal. Yeah, most of them are, I would say, they're more atheist. Yes, generally speaking. Okay, that is a generalization, but it is true. What else is there? Not code for anything. Liberal means liberal. That's from Dario. Dario's like a... Sorry, Dario, but I gotta say it. You're like a bit of a lapdog. They're gonna get... Oh, I'm Dario. Girls, I'm gonna say everything you want me to say. Can I have a... You're simping. You want your cookie, Dario? You want your cookie? You want the girls to give you your cookie? That's the worst place to be, Dario, because now you're like, oh, it means nothing else. I'm not gonna read anything into it. Women are gonna walk all over Dario. Now, I don't know how old you are, Dario, but I predict in your future, women will walk all over you. And if you're older, women have walked all over you, and you still haven't figured out why they do. Okay, but keep working. Keep working on it, Dario. Traditional liberal versus new liberal is a big difference. That's from Nabil. Okay, I agree. We're talking about new liberal. Okay, the modern day word of liberal. Okay. Does not have a strong father model. That's from Muhammad. It's not bad. He's a simp. LOL. That's from Doggy. Doggy understands that our boy Dario, and which I'm sure he means well. Maybe he was raised by his mom. Maybe he had like 5 sisters. I'm sure he's a good guy. Dario, I don't mean to like step on you here, but that's really like you are simping. Come on. That's really like snap out of it. I knew someone named Dario was... Oh, I can't read the rest of that. Shame on you. The voice, please. No, please, no. LOL, coach just cooked me. Dario, I like that. I like that you have a sense of humor. Let me pin that one. Dario got cooked, guys. He did get cooked. He's a bit of a simp, liberal simp. We're going to hopefully give him therapy in this chat. He's going to get therapy on this channel. He's going to subscribe to this channel. He's going to listen to every podcast. And hopefully he's going to make his way out of the world of simps. And he's going to finally become a man who stands on his own 2 legs. And he's going to earn himself a woman. Now, okay, guys, what does it mean, the liberal woman? You guys said it all, okay? Now, I don't agree that every liberal... I don't want to generalize, okay? I'm not going to tell you guys every liberal woman is like that. But the women in the West are going in this direction. They want to have girls' night. They want to be able to get drunk. They want to be able to have all the freedoms that, I don't know, a single man has, even though she's in a relationship or whatnot. She wants to have her complete and other dependence. Why? Because that's what our culture tells her. You have to be educated. You have to have your own money. You got to do your own thing. And you always got to have everything your husband has, you got to have. How? But they benefit when we pay the bills. If you're sleeping in your bed and there's a strange sound, maybe somebody's breaking in the house, the man's got to go. Of course the man's got to go. She's going to lose all attraction for you if you're not the one to get up and go and save her. So there's a double standard. I agree. But here's the thing. I think you got to educate her. You got to talk to her. You got to sit down when you're having dinner with her and you got to talk about like, how liberal should we be? How traditional? How liberal? Like, what is the right balance? What is good? Is being conservative better than being liberal, or is being liberal better than being conservative? Which one of the two is better and why? And you have to talk about it. And you got to see how your woman's mind thinks. And now, if she thinks in a way that's too different from you, you got to dialogue until you guys meet somewhere that's reasonable, or you got to part ways. You got to put it in your head and be like, look, this is a train wreck going to happen in the future. Guys, when you get my age, believe me, you see many train wrecks, my friends. Many train wrecks. Why? Because in the West here, it's people are, both men and women are unable to get married. They're unable to get married. Everybody's so immature. Everybody's so selfish. Now, I'm not just putting it on women. Men are equally as selfish and immature. It takes two mature people who are ready to sacrifice and build a family. At the end of the day, what was I reading? Oh, yeah, I was reading statistics are coming out. Statistics. Oh, they're realizing the birth rate is so low because now Quebec, where I'm at, in Canada, we're minimizing immigration because of the housing crisis. We have a housing crisis. We're not able to make enough housing. We're supposed to bring 1 million new immigrants. Now, we need those immigrants. Why? Because they come here, they work, they pay taxes. We need people to push the system with taxes. But there's a housing crisis. We only built 30,000 new homes in 1 year, and you're bringing in 1 million people. 1 million people. That's a lot of houses. That's a lot of people. Now, it's not 1 million houses because they're families and whatnot, but still, it's still 1 million people. You built $30,000 houses. That's not enough. So what do? Well, we got to cut immigration. Why? We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough medical care. We don't have enough social services. The system is cracking. We need taxpayers to build these houses. To have healthcare and to have these social services. But now we're not getting that tax income. Why? Because we're slowing down the population. Why we're slowing down the population? Not enough housing. The housing market is too hot. It's too expensive now. The housing is getting way too expensive. People can't afford houses. So even the houses we're building, people can't afford them. Our economy is in a serious pinch. Now, people are realizing, hey, the Arabs in our country, they're having kids. We're slowly being replaced by non-French, non-Canadian, non-English, because don't forget, guys, Canada's a bit of different. It's a bit different in America, okay? We have a lot of English-speaking Canadians. Only out of the 10 provinces, only one province speaks French. Canada's bilingual, okay? We speak French and English. We're supposed to speak French and English, but there's only one place in Canada where we speak French and English. It's in Quebec, okay? And even in Quebec, they speak mostly French. We have about 8 million people in Quebec. Montreal's 2 million people. Yes, we speak English in Montreal, definitely. However, it's mostly French. Now, the rest of Canada is all English. There's no French in the rest of Canada. There's a few places, maybe Newfoundland or whatnot. There's a few pockets here and there, but I'm telling you, the vast majority of the rest of Canada speaks English. So we're not truly bilingual in that sense. Okay, so they're noticing all the time. Every few months they ring these alarms. They start putting out articles. Our demographics are changing. Our demographics are changing. Well, why do you think your demographics are changing? Liberalism. Liberal women don't produce as much children as conservative women. So, my friend, I'm telling you, you have to think. Do you want to have children? Do you want to have do you want to be with a conservative woman or a liberal woman? You got to sit down. You got to meet her in a place that's sensical. Because liberal women, in the end, in my opinion, they're not married to you. They're married to the government. At the end of the day, the government is who their real husband is. You're just a proxy. Because they know they have the law behind them. They have the court system behind them. They have everything to pull the rug out from underneath you. So that's why they're going to walk around confident. You can't touch a hair on her head. Not that you should, but you can't touch even her hair on her head. She has to dial 3 numbers, 911. They'll put you in handcuffs. What are you talking about? She's so powerful. She's just as powerful. And of course, you shouldn't be hit. You shouldn't be harming any hair on her head. But I'm just saying, in other parts of the world, women, they bow to their husband. Listen, I've been all over the world, guys. I'm telling you. I'm not saying one side is better than the other. What I'm just saying is I've seen both sides. In some parts of the world, man, if a man's not happy with his wife, she can't call 911. Okay, there are parts of the world like that. So you're gonna see like there's a different culture. The men are respected. They walk down the street, people don't mess with them. Like that's the men. I think there's a happy middle. I think men should be respected. There should be, of course, men should be respected. Because in the West, men are laughed at. Men are humiliated. Men are just like an afterthought. And personally, I'd rather be single than live like that. Me personally. So to answer your question, I think you got to dialogue with her. You got to see where she's at. You know, where on the continuum does she land? And can you live with that? And if you can't, it's time to push eject. I just left a liberal girl and it almost destroyed me. Don't do it. I have a nice, submissive, respectful woman now. So much better. Did I just misread that? Hold on, let me read that again. This is from Big Dog. Okay, Big Dog says, I just left a liberal woman and it almost destroyed me. Don't do it. I have a nice, submissive, respectful woman now. So much better. Okay, because the way he wrote that message, it kind of seems like you're telling him, don't leave your liberal woman. Well, he left his liberal woman, saying don't do it, meaning I think he's telling you don't get married, like don't get involved with this girl. Personally, I would much rather have a conservative woman. Much more. Now look, I'm not the most conservative man, but I'm conservative. I come home, my house is in order, my wife is respectful. If I ask her for something or want something from her, she's more than happy to accommodate me. She respects her husband. She's loyal, she's friendly, she's kind. I see some of my friends married a liberal woman. I'm like, damn, man. Like, they get so disrespected. And they have no control. They have to go home and kind of like hope things are okay today. They have to hope. They have to hope that today, she's in a good mood, or she's gonna be ready to compromise, or she's like, how could you live like this, man? It's insane. To me, it's just pure insanity. I can't live like that. I'd rather be single. Okay. Okay, guys, give me 1 second. I got to put one of these knuckleheads in timeout. Kamzat, keep your eyes on DDP. This weekend has good cardio, and he will try to fight for 5 rounds because he knows it's the only way to beat you. But me and it doesn't matter. 1 round finish. I love you, Kamzat. That's from Shiz, guys. Is Kamzat stepping in for DDP? That's not official, is it? Because that's a fight I'll be even more Kamzat. That'll be a fight I'll be more excited for, but it can't be right. No, wait, this is old. This is 2024. Plessis reveals why he's fighting Strickland and not 2024. No. It's not official. No. Is he stepping in? Is there some kind of change? Shiz, I don't think Kamzat is fighting DDP this weekend. No. I thought maybe there's some breaking news because I did hear some rumors. There's always a rumor here and there. Oh, this guy might be injured. He might be injured. They might put this guy. It's always like clickbait. I think Shiz is jumping the gun on this one today. Hi from Japan. Huge fan. I train beginner MMA fighters 5 days a week, twice daily. We cover striking/grappling, but should we focus on wrestling/boxing? What's the best weekly program? Any input? That's from Mia. There's no best weekly protocol. Okay, so me personally, when I do striking practice, I like to start with boxing and then we do kickboxing. So me, whenever we do training, every time we do striking training, this is how I learned from Sagat. Okay, so Sagat was 11-time world champion. We always did part of the workout boxing, part of the workout Muay Thai. I don't think it has to be one or the other. Okay, so we warm up with boxing. In my opinion, it's the best warm up. So the guys come in, they warm up shadow, then we glove up, then we warm up boxing. After warming up a few rounds of boxing, we start doing Muay Thai kickboxing. Now, how many rounds of boxing? It depends. The further you are from the fight, the more boxing rounds. The closer you are to your fight, the more I make it like the rules of the fight night. Okay, so of course MMA fights, you're allowed to knee, elbow, kick. So we do that in sparring. Now, of course, we don't really knee and elbow each other in sparring. We just kind of simulate it. But we're sparring, punching with 16-ounce gloves, shin pads. We're punching and kicking for real. Of course, always with some control. So personally, I really believe in starting with boxing. As in terms of grappling, I do a lot of wrestling and grappling. So for me, if you look at the wrestlers, look at wrestling, go to a wrestling club. They don't do days of just ground and days of just stand up. No. They warm up on the ground, then they wrestle standing up. So me, I do techniques. Sometimes it's ground technique, sometimes it's standing technique. And then when I roll, We do a couple of rounds on the ground to warm up, wrestling on the ground like every BJJ club. And then once we're sweaty and whatnot, we start wrestling standing. Because that's the safest way. I always tell my students when I see them, it's round 1 and they start wrestling, I'm like, no, guys, wrestle on the ground. Warm up on the ground. At least do 1 round grappling on the ground. Now, today I grappled 2 rounds on the ground and 1 round standing up. Tomorrow, I might do 1 round on the ground and 2 rounds standing up. We're always doing, it always depends, like how I feel. But there's wrestling and ground every day available. So depending on how many rounds you want to do. Today we're doing 7-minute rounds. So that's 21 minutes. So I spent 7 minutes wrestling, 14 minutes jiu-jitsu. I didn't go to the night session because I have to fly out tomorrow. So I had to skip a session. But normally I would go back tonight and I would probably do 2 on the ground, 1 standing up. Or maybe I would have done 1 on the ground and 2 standing up. So it all depends. You mix and match on what you want to work on. But you don't necessarily have to separate them. I don't see the need to. I think you should do them both in one practice. Now, sometimes I'll just do ground. Why? My back's a little bit tight or my shoulder's bothering me. I'm just going to do back escapes or something. I'm always tailoring the workout to how I feel and what I feel I need to work on. I went to French school in Ontario. It is really rare. That's from Kenji. If you go to Ontario, you're not going to meet people who speak French. Ils ne parlent pas français. No. You're going to have to come up here in Quebec and to practice your French. Okay, guys, listen, I'm doing my best with the super chats. However, if you just put $2 or whatnot and I missed it, I'm sorry, okay? Because sometimes I go on long answers. I'm doing my best to answer them all, and I'm always doing super chats and non-super chats. Quebec seems like a good place to find women. That's from Men Development. I'll tell you something. If Quebec was a country, it would be known for its beautiful women. Now, why? We have something called les femmes du roi. What is les femmes du roi? Les femmes du roi is French for the king's women. When the French came to colonize Canada, they were here in Quebec. That's why we speak Français. That's why we speak French. When the French came to colonize, they were mostly men. So they had established themselves in Quebec and they were telling the French king, hey, we need women. We don't have any women here. So the French king was like, anybody want to go to France? Does anybody want to go to Quebec, the new France? Nobody wants to go there. There's nothing developed. Why would you want to go in somewhere where they're just colonizing and it's just like a hard life? You're working 20 hours a day and you got nothing. You're barely surviving. Who you're going to send? So the king the French king rounded up all the prostitutes in France. He put them on a ship and he sailed them across the sea, across the ocean, to what we know today as Quebec. That's why if you come to Quebec, you're going to see that the women here are actually incredibly beautiful. They have very beautiful features. The women in Quebec are actually gorgeous. Now, I didn't know this because I grew up in Quebec. So for me, I was seeing these women. To me, they were average. When I started traveling the rest of the world, I realized, wow, the women back home are really gorgeous. I was like, how come the women at home? Now, don't get me wrong. There are other places in the world where the women are gorgeous. Okay, but I've traveled on pretty much the entire globe. And I can tell you, there are places where the women are just really beautiful. And Quebec is one of them. It's actually unknown because if you take Canada as a whole country, you'll find beautiful women in the big cities. So you're going to find women in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. Now, there are other few places, yes, but beautiful women usually aggregate where there's money, where there's a big city. In Quebec, though, you can go almost anywhere, and you're going to find beautiful women. Why? Because of something that's known as les femmes du roi. And I realized, hey, there must be a reason. I looked it up, and it turns out there's a history behind it. The women today have these beautiful features because of les femmes du roi, the king's women. Who are those women? Well, they're the women who were prostituting themselves. Well, if they're prostituting themselves, it's probably because they had some kind of beautiful feature that they could exploit and make money. So that's a little history for you. Coach, is taking creatine good for jiu-jitsu? That's from Amin. I think it's good. I don't really do it too much because I'm too lazy to take it, but do your research on it before you do. What else we got here? Hey, Coach, what do you think about Sui coin? And do you think we'll have a bull market? That's from Katu. Katu, I've been meaning to research that coin. I haven't. I know it's a smart contract similar to Solana and Ethereum. I think those contracts, one smart contract is going to make it big. I'm just kind of like really disappointed. I thought it was going to happen already. I think Ethereum, Solana, and Avalanche, they did good, but I was thinking more. I was thinking they're going to do more. I'll tell you, at one point I thought Ethereum one day would take over, and it's still not impossible it happens, but I thought it would take over Bitcoin eventually. But now I'm really thinking the other way. I think Bitcoin is going to take over everything. It's just that smart contracts, why do I go so big in smart contracts? Because I thought, they have utility. They're not only crypto, but they have utility. But when you go see things like, the projects they have on there, Ethereum and Solana, it's always coins or decentralized applications that are for trading coins or for lending, money lending. Okay, so that's doing well. For sure, there's billions of dollars in lending. But when are they going to make something like a Twitter or a Facebook that everybody wants? I know there are projects out there that have done that, but they're not popular. Nobody's loving them. Nobody's hooked on them. Everybody's still on the old internet. Now, I think one day somebody's going to develop something on a smart contract. It's gonna explode. It's gonna be super popular. Everybody's gonna want it. Kind of like texting. When texting came out, it's like, that'll never replace the telephone. Now, I rather, when I message people, when I talk to people, I want it by text. I don't even like email anymore. I don't even like email. Why? Because of junk mail. Junk mail, and people like just so much mail. I get so much email. Only a few people have my personal number. So I really check my text a lot more. Now, when text messaging came out, I thought it was the dumbest thing. I was like, hey, why wouldn't you just call somebody? Take 2 seconds and call the person. Why do you got to write him a message? That's crazy. But now I realize, because I can message 20 people, I don't have the time in the day to call 20 people. Texting is so much better, and you can get my message at your convenience, where the call might not be convenient now. But when I was younger, life was a lot slower. You had plenty of time to call people. You had plenty of time to go, even to your neighbor. If you had something to tell him, go walk over and tell him go and tell him in person. Now it's like, we're living life so fast. I don't even have time to see my neighbor. I don't even have time to say hello. It's just, we're living in a different world. We have greatly increased the speed of life. Now, I still believe that somebody's going to use smart contracts for something we haven't thought of. Just like texting. I never thought texting would be a thing. I thought it was dumb. For the first few years texting was out, nobody was using it. And then we realized, you know what? It has great utility. Amazing utility, actually. The real reason why texting didn't take off early on, I think, is because you had to pay per text. At the beginning, it was expensive. People were like, why would I spend 10 cents on sending you a message? I'd rather call you for free. Because 10 cents adds up, right? You're sending 100 texts. All of a sudden, you're getting a bill at the end of the month. Now, everybody has unlimited texting. So it's created a new market. It's created a new way of communication. It's incredible how technology can change the way we do things. What's the history of Lebanon going from Christian to Muslim? I've heard different stories. One saying the Muslims turned on the Christians and attacked. That's from Mike. Mike, I'm not sure about that. I have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that particular, even though I come from there, even though I hail from there. I should know that. My apologies, Mike. I should know this answer. But I don't know the specifics. I will look it up, and hopefully next podcast, I'll be able to have you a thorough answer. That is, though, a very, very good question. Please research the coin, Coach, because I respect your opinion. That's from Katu. Katu, I'm planning on doing that, but it's been actually a couple of months now. I've been looking. There's just so many projects. I can't study them all, but I definitely will have a look at it. Guys, please do not spam. Do not spam the chat. You will be put in a timeout. What city of Lebanon are you originally from? My father's from Beirut. After the fight, coach, it seems like whoever wins will be facing Khamzat. In my opinion, I believe it will be Dricus versus Khamzat. Do you think Dricus will manage to survive at TriStar Gym? That's from Faithful. What a crazy fight. I would love to see Dricus do Plessis versus Khamzat. Like right now, if you told me, put a gun to my head and like pick a winner, I would pick Khamzat. It's incredible what he did to Whitaker. It's insane. You know he's going to shoot on you in the first 20 seconds. Can you stop it? No. It's incredible. It's just really, he's a phenom. It's just really incredible. Why no judo at TriStar? That's from Rock Lobster. Because we have a really good wrestling program. We have Gia Saudi. We have Anatoly teaching wrestling. And everything in wrestling, they have, I should say everything in judo, they kind of have it in wrestling. Okay, the throws, the trips, it's all there. So we do upper body throws. You know, Gia Saudi he's a world champion. He's a silver medalist in Atlanta Games. He's one of the greats of wrestling. So we got all sorts of technical. Of course, I still like to bring judokas in, but I don't have a formal judo class because in TriStar it's all no-gi. So we'd have to do judo no-gi, and I don't think there's anybody who really specializes in that. It's more wrestling. You know, you're gonna see a lot of wrestling moves that come from judo that were adapted for no-gi. All right, guys. I'm always doing super chats and non-super chats. Guys, don't forget, use holiday 55 off and get 55% off anything on jujiclub.com. Make sure to check out TriStar dorms. If you're going to come and train in Montreal and you want to stay at the TriStar dorms, check out the link and check out the email in the description and send a message to TriStar dorms. Let them know how long you want to stay and whatnot, and you will be training at the TriStar Gym, living in the TriStar dorms. Quran 5:1 even says Muslims should not befriend Christians. That's from LARPing. No, that's not true. Okay, it says don't take them as protectors. If you read the original Arabic, it means protectors. It doesn't mean friends. Okay, sometimes it's mistranslated. Why? It has a particular context. Okay, because don't forget, because Muslims who can marry Christians. So what? I can't be friends with my own wife. When I married my wife, she was Christian. She converted to Islam later on, but during the time when I married her, she was a Christian. You think I wasn't friends with her family? You think I wasn't friends with my in-laws? Of course I was. In the time when that verse came down, there was a conflict. There was friction between the groups. And it was saying, the Quran is saying, don't take them as protectors over Muslims. So different factions of Muslims don't start allying with the Christians over Muslims. Okay, because it's going to fragment the Muslim movement. So of course we can be friends with Christians. No scholar in the history of Islam will tell you, oh, don't be friends with a Christian. Of course not. It's ridiculous. If you read the entire Quran, actually the Quran is very sympathetic towards Christianity. Don't forget, in the early Muslim movement, the Christians protected the Muslims. So the Christians were close friends to the Muslims, very close friends. The Muslims were persecuted by pagans, and it was a Christian umbrella they hid under, okay, for many, many decades, actually. So, a part of the Muslims, a part. So, we're great friends with the Christians, and actually the Quran praises the Christians, actually, for being merciful and kind, etc. LARPing, it has a lot to do with context. You have to know the context. That's why you can't just read the Quran and think you understand it. You have to have somebody who's mastered the Quran. And he learned it from his master and so on, who learned it all the way. There's a chain of custody all the way to the Prophet ﷺ. So you have to have the context of every verse. Could these champs in the prime, GSP/Silva/Kane/Aldo/Cruz, be champs in today's UFC? That's from Robbie. Yes, all those names you called, every one of them, in my opinion, could be world champion today in their prime. Yes. GSP had the wrestling. Silva's had a brilliant striking, but today's wrestling could be troublesome, but he was so great in the striking. I think he could do it. Yes. Aldo for sure. Aldo had incredible defensive wrestling. Honestly, one of the hardest guys in the history of MMA to take down. One of the hardest guys in the history of MMA to take down. Think about it. Merab never took him down. Even Merab couldn't take him down. I got to rewatch that fight, actually. That was such a great fight. Even Merab couldn't get him down. It's insane. His wrestling defense was quite incredible. Now, he did get taken down in his career here and there, but not an easy task and not for long. Cruz had a very bizarre style. And there was a time where just people didn't understand. Nobody understood what he was doing in there. So he could have been world champion. If he bursted onto the scene today and in his prime, he could definitely be world champion. BK, thank you. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Merci beaucoup. Coach, you said there's a guy who KO'd GSP in training before a fight. Does he always beat GSP? Question mark. Is the guy one of the greatest fighters? Answer in Arabic. I want to see your Arabic. That's from Bin Ksar. No, I'm not gonna do it in Arabic because my Arabic is not so great. Okay, I'll admit that. I'm not saying I'm the best in Arabic. No, listen. He got flash knocked down. He wasn't knocked out cold. Okay, he got hit. He dropped to the floor like a sack of potatoes. Bounced back up, and he was hurt. Now, the guy who kicked him was Kenny Florian. So Kenny Florian fought for 3 world titles. So it wasn't like every time they sparred, Kenny would knock him out. No, it happened once. Of all the sparrings they've done, all the trainings they've done, it would happen once. Okay, and it was kind of like a kick that grazed the top of his head. And don't forget, we're Shark Tanking George at the time. Okay, so George was doing 5 rounds in a row, and we'd send a fresh guy here and there. I can't remember what round that was. I think it was like the 3rd round, if I'm going off memory. So George had an accumulation of fatigue, don't forget. So we're pushing him now for his world title fight. So don't forget, what happens in sparring, sometimes it's not reflective of what happens in a fight. George is bigger than Kenny. Kenny's a phenomenal fighter, of course, as well. But George is under a lot of fatigue, a lot of stress. We're pushing him. We're all coming together to give him a training that's going to be way harder than the fight, right? That's the idea. So he did get kind of dropped. I wouldn't say KO'd. When I never said, I don't think I ever said KO'd. If I did, I misspoke. He got stunned, let's say. I'll say stunned. And I was like, I believe like 2 weeks before his fight. Would you take Merab's cardio or Pereira's power? That's from Siraj. That's such a good question. Damn, that's a good question. Hold on, let me think about that. Pereira's power. What do you need all that cardio for if you're gonna knock the guy out in the first couple of rounds? Think about it. Imagine Merab is fighting Pereira. Who's gonna be more nervous? I think Pereira is gonna be cool as a cucumber. He's gonna be like, what's the worst that could happen to me? I'm gonna get held down for a little bit. No, when you're fighting a guy who could put your lights out like that, you make one wrong move. You step left when you're supposed to step right. You lean back when you're supposed to lean to the side. Boom, you're out. I'd rather have that superpower. I think that's like... Also, you're more of a fan favorite, so you get more love, you get more prestige. Your sponsors are through the roof. Everybody loves you. And nobody complains about your fights. Nobody's like, oh, you're not able to finish. Nobody's ever negative. When you knock somebody out, people are like, hey, that was amazing, man. You did it. So I think now that I think about it, it's an easy answer. Ever thought of doing the Lex Friedman podcast? That's from Muhammad Munir. I would definitely do it. If I'm in the region, if I have the time with him, I would definitely do it. I don't know if you'd have me on. I don't know if he's interested in having me on, but I would definitely do it. Coach, I have a question. How do you build amazing upper back mobility like Armin? That's from Alex Z. Actually, you don't want hyper flexibility in your back. People with hyper flexibility are going, according to Stuart McGill, people with the most flexible backs have the most back pain. So people with the strongest backs and the most flexible. If you're too strong, I know it sounds crazy, and you're too flexible, you're gonna have back pain. This is not my words, guys. This is Stuart McGill, and his research is considered to be he's considered to be the top back expert in the world. Okay. And he says, look, if you want a 1,000-pound squat, guess what? You're going to end up with a bad back eventually. Okay, if you want to have a super flexibility that these gymnasts are doing, they're rolling themselves up in a pretzel, you're eventually going to wear out your vertebrae because you're putting so many miles on them. So in my opinion, according to him, and I agree with him, you have to have a certain amount of flexibility, a certain amount of strength. It has to be built gradually, but you don't want to go beyond a certain point. Some joints are not meant to be bent so far. I want to debate whether Islam says to be evil to Christians today and how to treat them. That's some LARPing. LARPing. The Quran clearly says, okay, the Quran, it's a general statement. It says, God doesn't forbid you from being kind and generous and to those who don't persecute you for your religion. So if you persecute us for our religion, we're not friends. If you hate on us because of our religion, we're not friends. If you're not against our religion, if you don't persecute us for our religion, you accept us. Okay, look, you can worship your God, we'll worship our God, because in the Quran it says it, look, you could be your religion, we'll be our religion, let God choose between us. We don't agree on who God is, or we don't agree on this or that. Fine, freedom of religion. Islam allows freedom of religion, and historically as well. In Islam, there were no forced conversion, okay? There was a few instances, but those were exceptions, and those were wrong. It's haram, okay? It's haram to force somebody to convert. Forced conversions happen under Christianity. Don't forget this, okay? En masse forced conversions and exterminations of people happen under Christianity, not under Islam. I know it's like the opposite of what we're told, but if you look at it historically, there was never a Holocaust in the Muslim world. There was never a genocide because of religion in the Muslim world. The genocide that happened in the Muslim world was when the Turks became secular, when the young Turks took over, then they had genocide, and that was the name of secularism. It was not in the name of religion. Now there are massacres done under Islam, and it was despite of Islam, not because of Islam. In Islam, you're allowed to practice your own religion. There are famous cases. We've talked about this in the past. I don't want to rehash it all out, but in Islam, under the rule of Islam, there was never a movement to exterminate people because of their religion. It never existed, never happened. Never. Under Christianity, there was a time during the Crusades and during the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition, look it up, where you would be exterminated for your religion. If you're a Muslim or a Jew, you were exterminated. That's why the Jewish people lived under Muslim lands for so many years, for so many centuries, not years, centuries. They lived under the umbrella of Islam, and many historians say that if it wasn't for Islam, Jewry would have been wiped out completely, because there was nowhere safe to live. So it's a very, very common but untrue thing people say, that Islam forces you your religion. It's haram, and the Quran clearly states there is no compulsion in religion. There is no compulsion. That means I can't force your beliefs. Okay, so it's a very, very common misunderstanding. Too much brightness. Coach, your thoughts on Beterbiev and Bivol 2? That's from user123. Wow, I can't wait to see that fight. I think Beterbiev this time. I know he won it the last time, but it was very controversial, very close. I think this time he can get it done in a way that's very convincing. Okay, LARPing, I gotta put you in a timeout because now you're just trying to, like, I don't know, trying to hit every little controversial topic. Because believe me, I can answer on every of these topics. I just don't want to make the whole podcast about these controversial topics. A little bit here and there, okay, but not like, go into every single controversial topic. Let's do one at a time here and there. Like, please go troll somewhere else. Goodness gracious, man. Find something to do with your life. Like, get a hobby. Get something more constructive with your life. Much more constructive than this. Coach, can you tell me why people believe in the Talmud instead of the Torah? That's from Charles Biddle Williams. Charles, it's a complicated thing, okay? Because every religion also has a tradition, an oral tradition. Because here's the thing, some people say like Quran only. Some people say the solo scriptura, only the scripture, only the Bible. Some Jews say only the Tanakh, but like no Talmud. But here's the thing, okay? Let's say somebody were to say, I'm Bible only, scripture only, solo scriptura. Like the Protestants, they say solo scriptura. Then we ask them a question. We have a question. It's like when people tell me Quran only. I have a question for you. You have this book in your hand. Okay, you believe this book is true. Who gave it to you? Who told you about its source? Who told you that Jesus exists? Well, somebody wrote the book and told me about Jesus, right? So if somebody tells me sola scriptura, only the scripture, no tradition. So if you look at the Orthodox, for instance, they have the Bible, they have the New Testament, they have the letters of Paul, they have the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, and they have a tradition of the church. The church traditions, they say one priest taught another, and there's a chain all the way back to the saints. Let's call them the saints, okay? The apostles or whatnot. They're saying, look, we have the Bible, but we also have this context. We also have these rules. We also have these lessons that are orally transmitted. The Talmud is a little bit different. The Talmud is a little bit different, okay? But before I get to the Talmud, let's talk about tradition. If the tradition, you take it out, we got to ask you, let's say I ask the Christians, who gave you this Bible? Because the Bible is a set of books. And that set of books is called a canon. Why these books and not these other books that we found during the same period? So there were 50 other gospels. Why did you choose these 4? Don't forget, there were about 50 gospels, let's call it. Okay, so 46 other gospels. Why did you choose these 4? There's no answer. Because why didn't you take this other gospel? You also found that gospel. Why is one gospel true and one gospel not true? You have to appeal to somebody who's an authority who said, look, these books are true. These books don't trace back to Jesus. But who is it? How do you know that? It's a very complex answer. And I'm going to tell you something. I've never heard a single person who's solo scriptura, scripture only, have a good answer to that. Believe me, that's the first thing I ask. Always. So how do you know? Like some people are Quran only. The first thing I always ask, and I never heard a good answer to this, is I tell them, how did you get this Quran? How did it make its way to you today? You have it in your hand. You're reading it. You believe in it. Okay, I'm with you there. But how did it get to you? Who gave it to you? Well, my father had it. Okay, who gave it to him? Well, his father had it. So at one point, you're losing track. You don't know who gave it to who. What's the history? Where did it come from? What's the context? So it could be very troublesome because they don't know why that book or how that book got to them. So how do you know there's not a part missing? How do you know? Oh, because the book says there's not a part missing. Well, how do you know that? Who's the authority? You need somebody to corroborate that. So for instance, if you had a disciple of Jesus who was like, look, this gospel is good, this gospel is not good. I was with Jesus. I learned from him directly. I'm an authority. I'm a priest under Jesus. Then it would make sense. That guy has authority. If you want to follow Jesus, that guy represents Jesus. He was authorized by Jesus to sort these things out. Okay, so in Islam, that's how we do it. We know that the Sahaba, the followers, the companions, the apostles of Muhammad alayhi salam, they were there to say, look, this is the canon. The canon meaning the collection. In Christianity, the canon was done almost in a democratic sense, okay, because it was Paul fighting with other churches, and eventually Paul won because more people sided with him. But he was not a direct apostle of Christ. He came after Christ. He lived at the same time of Christ, but he had his conversion much later. Now, the apostles of Christ, we have no historical evidence of them. They don't exist. They don't exist historically speaking. We find no evidence of them. There's no biographies. There's no historical movement where this man was followed. There's very little evidence of that. We have the Church of Jerusalem, sure, but very little. We have fragments of it. Like we don't know much about it. It's a complicated topic, so we always ask, how did you get this canon? Now the Talmud, it's quite interesting because the Talmud comes after the books of Moses. It doesn't come with and along the books of Moses, it comes after. And it's the rabbis, it's the priests. They're writing and they're writing and they're writing. And they're doing commentaries on one another's writings. And some Jewish thinkers think that those writings are even higher than the Bible itself, which I never really understood, to be honest with you. I never understood why would they say that. Like, isn't the 5 books of Moses directly from God? So why would you say the Talmud is even more, it's more authoritative? So I never understood that. But look, I'm not an expert in the Talmud. I'm far from it. But I'll tell you something. I've read some of the Talmud, and it's quite. It's extremely controversial. Extremely, like some things that's said in there. It's just very hard to swallow. Like very hard to imagine somebody would think this. It's really difficult. Quranists can answer this. If the Quran is the only thing we didn't, the Holy Quran simply come down on a mountain. Not sure what you meant by that, but if you can elaborate, that'll be good. Thoughts on Rampage Jackson blocking style in MMA? I liked it. I like the way he blocks. I thought he was actually quite good in defensively. And in certain fights, like of course, if you look at his fight in Shogun, he couldn't block the plum. There were certain things he couldn't block. Like if you watch the I think it was their second fight, he just got destroyed in the plum. It's like, and Shogun is a plum guy. Like the plum guys, for those of you who don't know, it's like when you grab somebody behind the neck and you start kneeing them in the face and the body. You grab the Thai people do it a lot. The Muay Thai fighters. But just blocking in boxing wise, because the gloves are smaller, I like the way he blocks. I like it because the gloves are smaller. I wouldn't do that in boxing. In boxing, if you do that, they're going to tell you it's wrong. It doesn't make any sense. You're exposing your body. All that is true in boxing because the gloves are bigger and the stance is, you're closer to one another. If you're 2 guys boxing, you're closer. If you're 2 guys doing MMA, you're a little bit further out because of the kicks. Okay, so it changes the dynamics. I cover this in A Man's Guide to Throwing a Punch. I teach that kind of blocking. I really think to be effective. And also in a street fight, that's how I would block. As a Turk, I agree. The young Turks were politically inspired. That's from Turk movement. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a secular movement. Dario says, LARPing is not going to listen to you. He's just spinning mindless apologetics. He doesn't generally want an answer. He wants to attack Islam through sophistry. I would agree with you, Dario. It just seems like he's just, trying to hit every controversial point. It's kind of boring, actually. It's kind of like, you think they have no time. Like, he has no time. He has too much time, I should say. Too much time. He hasn't found his purpose yet. He hasn't found something that, he hasn't found anything productive. It's just kind of like sad, very sad. Coach, your thoughts on long runs versus sprints for cardio? That's what I mean. I've grandfathered that question. Check out a man, Strong and Stable Running for Life. Check it out. It's all in there. Okay, so I'm much more into sprinting, much more. Okay. Coach, what level do you think you would have got to if you fought instead of coaching? Do you think you could have fought for or got a strap in UFC? Question mark. That's from Hamza. Well, I definitely could have gotten UFC. Like, I'm really, really certain of that. Definitely. Like, I wouldn't want to say, oh, I'd be a world champion or whatnot. But I think that's the question you should ask George St. Pierre. I think if you guys ever have a chance, ask George St. Pierre what he thinks. Because we used to be sparring partners. Me and him were sparring partners for the longest time. I didn't pursue it because 2 reasons, okay? One, there was no money in it at the time. Guys, I'm telling you, there was no money. George's first fight, he made 3 plus 3. And when I say 3 plus 3, I don't mean 300,000 plus 300,000. He made $3,000 to show and $3,000 extra dollars if he wins. So a total of $6,000. We trained 4 months together for that fight. He fought Carlo Parisian. He came back home with $6,000. I thought it was a great adventure. I had the time of my life. I was like amazed that we got to compete at that. Like, I got to help him compete at the highest level. We did the whole training camp and everything. It was crazy. But at the end of the day, the training camp cost more than what the money was made on that night. And that's with winning. Think about it. That was with winning. And I was a 145er. So I was like, I'm not going to fight in UFC. There's no 145 division. Yes, that's right, guys. The UFC used to not have a 145 division that time. 155 was the lightest weight division. A lot of people don't remember that because you guys are younger and you didn't watch UFC back then. But I'm telling you, it didn't exist. It must have come like 5 to 7 years later. It took a long time. So I was a 145er. I'd have to go up a weight class at that time. And there was no money. Why would I go up a weight class to fight for $3,000? It was just an insane, like, didn't make any sense. So I was like, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to start a business. I want to be a lawyer, actually. But later on, I personally think I would have got hit by the entrepreneur bug. Long story short, it was something I did out of love. I loved martial arts. Why? Because I was bullied as a young child. So for me, like, martial arts was like, it was like very exciting because, I can learn how to defend myself and I can learn how to fight now. I can actually not only learn how to defend myself, I can actually stay in shape doing this sport that I like. I love learning this stuff. So it was more of a positive thing in my life than me going to make money or live off it. Now, George, I'll tell you something. I didn't think he was doing it for the money either. He was doing it because it was an adventure. It was amazing. First of all, he loves martial arts. He was a martial arts enthusiast since he's a kid. But he was doing it because it was such a crazy, wild experience. We're going to Las Vegas. We're fighting on TV. You get the rush of the wind. What a great feeling. But at the end of the day, we have to work. He has to go to work. He used to even, I'll tell you guys don't know this. Most of you don't know this about George. But George also was a garbage man. He used to throw away garbage. He used to ride around on a truck and chuck garbage. He did a lot of odd jobs, but he was a garbage man for a while as well. I mean, think about it. Think about that. The guy was a garbage man. And then he became world champion millionaire. What a crazy story. I was going to school and I'm like, man, I can't take a small job to be a fighter to make no money. Like, the odds of him making it were highly unlikely. But the sport changed overnight. Tito Ortiz was getting crazy popular. More and more people were watching it, and you couldn't get his hat. He had a beanie he used to sell, like a hat, like a punish. It said punishment on it. What was it? What was his brand called again? Well, yeah, punishment clothing. It just said punish. It was cool. It was like a fire. It was a flame beanie. It was a flame. Everybody was wearing it. He was making a killing with those beanies. They were sold out, or I don't know what. More and more people watching MMA. More and more people. Guys, we were there at the boom of the sport. But it wasn't, man, you know what? It was Frank Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz that I think jumped UFC up a level. Now, UFC jumped many levels, but that fight, Tito Ortiz versus Frank Shamrock, if you guys have never seen that fight, you have to go back and watch that fight. It was history. It was incredible history. One, from what I remember, they bet an additional $10,000. So Tito versus Frank Shamrock, the brother of Ken Shamrock, they're not biological brothers. Okay, they were adopted by the same man, so they took the man who adopted them's last name. So they became both Shamrocks, even though they're not blood related. Shamrock was the UFC world champion. He fights Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz was bigger back then. The weight classes were different. I can't remember exactly the details, but I remember Tito was much bigger. And I remember they put an additional bet to their purses, $10,000. Now, $10,000, we're like, that's crazy. Fighting for $10,000. Today, if you ask me to fight for $10,000, I'll laugh in your face. But back then, $10,000 extra on the table, that was crazy. I was like, wow, in MMA that didn't exist. Now, you have to remember, this fight occurred before George was ever in UFC. So George was fighting 3+3. Now, these guys are a main event fight, so it's going to be more. But the fact that they put $10,000 extra on the table was like, wow, everybody was buzzing. Now, when I say everybody, I mean like the hardcore MMA fans, the weirdos that like MMA, because the vast majority of the world was still not watching MMA. Everybody was watching boxing still. Everybody was watching NFL, NBA like today. But back then, boxing was big. Boxing was huge. MMA was like a weirdo, crazy, human cockfighting, weird, like bloodbath. Like, don't watch that stuff. It's just too violent. It's just two idiots trying to kill each other. That's how it was stigmatized. Okay. Now, of course, Frank Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, elite athletes, brilliant fighters, two champions, two legends of the sport. But the boxing community, the sporting community are all, by and large, were not interested in our sport. When that fight happened, Frank Shamrock, being the smaller fighter, winning in such a dramatic fashion, because Tito was all over him at the beginning. Then Tito started to get tired. And all of a sudden, Frank turns it up and he comes back from behind and he ends up finishing Tito Ortiz with some hammer fists on the ground. Like Tito Ortiz was kind of trying to take him down, and Frank was hitting him, hammering him on the side of the head, I should say. And they stopped the fight, and the little guy wins, and he puts his arms up and he's got blood all over his face. It was a dramatic scene. The smaller guy who was losing toughed it out to the end and beats the bigger, muscular, bad boy villain at the time. Okay, he was like the bully villain at the time. Now, Frank Shamrock retires. He takes his belt, says, I'm leaving this one in the octagon. I'm done with the sport. I reached the top of the sport. I'm done. He retires. Tito Ortiz comes back and starts mopping the floor with everybody. Now it's the Tito Ortiz era. And let me tell you something. The fans loved his attitude. He had that bad boy, brash attitude. He would go in there. He would crush guys. He would finish them. And then he would do like his burial. He would dig a grave. He would mime himself digging a grave. And then he would mime bringing his opponent into the grave. And he'd put the dirt back on the grave and seal the grave. He would pat the dirt down and, yeah, that's Tito Ortiz. And the American fans ate it up. The sport exploded. The Tito Ortiz era was huge. Tito became hella famous, crazy famous, similar to the Ronda Rousey era. Of course, Ronda Rousey at that time, the sport was much bigger, but her brash attitude, her like defying all her opponents, crushing them, dominant wins. Tito was like that. Now the sport started growing. Now George St. Pierre was behind Tito. Tito was paving the way for big pay-per-views. He was making big pay-per-views, and at the time, the champion gets a cut of the pay-per-view. So Frank Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, those guys really also took the payday into another level. And of course, George was the champion in the next generation. So now the big money started rolling in. I'm sure Tito also made big money. He definitely did, because he blew up the sport. But Frank, I don't think made big money. Actually, I would love to see. Let me look that up. How much did Frank Shamrock make against Tito? I'm sure they made it public. Frank Shamrock. Let's see, payout. How much did he get paid? There's not much info available about the payout for the fight between Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, but here's some related information. Let's see. Come on, that's got to have gotten leaked. How old was Tito when he fought Ken Shamrock? How old when he fought Ken Shamrock? No, Ken Shamrock is the brother. That's the wrong Shamrock. Frank Shamrock. Okay. Frank Shamrock versus Tito purses. Come on, I can't believe they didn't tell us that information. 2006. Was that 2006? No, that's Ken Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz. We want Frank Shamrock. Why is they're not giving me Frank? Somebody find me what they made. Frank Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz, UFC 22. What year was that? It's got to be early 2000s. Fourth round, 4 minutes and 42 seconds. Submission by strikes. What year was it? It lists Tito Ortiz as 6'3". Shamrock was 5'7". Weight, Shamrock was 199 pounds. Frank, 199 pounds. That can't be right. They look so much different. Maybe Tito cut weight and he didn't. We'll have to double check that. Let's see. Oh, the weight limit was 199. Okay, so Friday, 1999, guys. This happened in 1999. The Ultimate Fighting Championship. 22. Only could be one champion. Nature. Okay. What's the payout? Pay not disclosed. Look at this. Not disclosed. Shamrock's pay. Tito Ortiz not disclosed. How could it not be disclosed? How could they have not leaked it after all these years? No. How could it not be? Can you believe it? They haven't disclosed the pay. That was 1999. That's incredible. September 1999. Goodness gracious. I got to go back and watch that fight. I'm going to watch that fight later tonight. I got to rewatch that. Guys, if you haven't seen Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz, you got to go watch it. It's one of the fights that blew up the sport. It made the sport so popular. We were all talking about it. It was like, I'm sure when I go back and watch it, I'm like, oh, this is like nothing like I remember it. It's always like that. But I remember the feeling of watching it. We're a bunch of guys who do jiu-jitsu. We're like really in love with the sport. We're very new to the sport. We're mesmerized with the sport. But we were weirdos because I'm telling you, 99% of people, like, they had never heard of it and they saw two guys rolling around on the ground fight. That's crazy. You guys are crazy. Why are you fighting each other? Frank Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, they had such an epic battle that if you didn't hear about UFC back then, you at least heard about the Shamrock Tito Ortiz fight. Bayo says there isn't much information about Frank Shamrock payout from fighting Tito Ortiz. How could that be? How could that be? It has to be leaked. It cannot be that if they kept it secret all these years. Yes, DJI, it's haram, 100%. You're right. Tito with his flag was awesome. That's from DBZ. Yes, he was come out with an American flag and a Mexican flag. And his beanie, guys, the punishment beanie. The punishment clothing was huge. Everybody was wearing punishment clothing. Everybody. You'd go to UFC and it was the thing to wear. You know, I've met Tito Ortiz a couple of times, actually. I wasn't even born. DGI. That's right. You weren't even born. We're doing this stuff. We were mixing it up and you weren't even born, son. All right, guys. Let's end it on the fun one. I'm going to wrap this up. What's your next move when you slip on a darce and your partner gets his back to the mat? That's from Dante. Look. If you have a darce, you could also switch to guillotine or anaconda. So if I have the darce and he flips to his back, I'm going to go into like an arm-in north-south guillotine. So it's I'm always going to go to one of the, I'm going to go to a type of guillotine, an anaconda, or I'm going to go back to darce. So if I lose the darce, I might go back to darce. I might turn it to anaconda, or I might go to a type of guillotine. So I don't know if you saw recently, Imanari versus Marcelo Garcia. They fought a couple of weeks back. Marcelo Garcia put him in a north-south guillotine. If he rolls to his back, one option is to go to north-south guillotine. And from north-south guillotine, he's going to roll to his side to avoid it. You put him back in the darce. Or you could switch to anaconda. Or you can go to a different type of guillotine, like an elbow-deep guillotine. So I would recommend you always think of 3 chokes at a time. You're always doing 3 chokes. Whenever you're doing a guillotine, you can go to darce. Whenever you're doing darce, you can go to guillotine. Whenever you're doing guillotine, you can go to anaconda. Like, you can mix and match these 3 They're think about them like next door neighbors. If one of them is not there, there's a version of guillotine that's got to be available. You got to figure out which one though. So I would say in this instance, north-south guillotine. Guys, you know Sean Strickland made fun of Palestine. That's from P4P. I hope he didn't. Because if he did, he's a real POS. Okay. I really hope that's not true. Now look, in Gaza right now, the US is talking about, Trump is saying, we're gonna take over Gaza. Okay, you're gonna take over Gaza? Okay, so you're gonna annex Gaza, you're gonna invade the country. Yeah, and we're gonna move the Palestinians. That's called ethnic cleansing. So you're gonna go by race now. Imagine somebody came into America and said, look, this race, we're gonna move you out of here. You're gonna go somewhere else. You can go to another place where your race, you're just gonna get out of here by your race. So how do you defer who's leaving? Goes by race. That's racism. That's, by the way, genocide. That's internationally, that goes against international law. Like literally, that goes against the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Like literally, that's a war crime. That is part of the definition. That is definitionally a genocide. The genocide is when you displace a people in whole or in part. When you try to kill a people in whole or in part. By displacing 1.8 Palestinians, half of them being children, that's a genocide. It's insane. Not one reporter, he was talking like that in front of everybody. Now I understand he's trying to sugarcoat it. He's like, they only don't leave because they don't have any other place to go. That's not true. They don't leave because that's their ancestral homeland. They've been there since before the time of Christ, alayhi salam. They've been there since before the time of Christ. How can you say they just didn't go because they didn't have nowhere else to go? No, the Palestinians have been there forever. They don't want to leave their homeland. Actually, they were expelled from their homeland and now they're trapped in Gaza. That's exactly, it's so ironic because that's exactly what Hitler did with the Jewish people. Hitler said, we don't want Jewish people in Europe. We don't want Jewish people in Germany. Germany's for the Germans. So he pushed the Jews in the ghetto. And the Jews, of course, they had the ZOB. They fought back, right? They tried to fight back. They did exactly what the Palestinians did. They tried to liberate themselves. They tried to fight back. We're not going to be in the ghettos. The term ghetto comes from Germans displacing Jewish people and putting them behind walls, behind fences, behind barbed wire, and policing them. That they would call it a ghetto, the Jewish ghetto. And then they would say, okay, we're going to displace you now. We're going to export you now out of Europe. And really, they were taking them to concentration camps to exterminate them. Really disgusting. Really absolutely abhorrent thing. It was just a vile and disgusting time in history. But now you have the USA and, of course, Israel working together to do the same thing to the Palestinians. Like how, sometimes you have these Israeli apologists saying, nobody wants the Palestinians. That's what the Nazis said about you. That's what the Nazis said about Jewish people. That's what the Christians said about Jewish people. And of course, in the time, and before World War II, it was the Muslims that took in the Jewish people and harbored them and protected them. Now, I think the Israeli ancestors, your Jewish ancestors, would be ashamed of you. They were like, these people used to protect us from the Crusades, from the Spanish Inquisition. They used to protect us. Now you're expelling them. It's disgusting. Really, it's disgusting. Saying that we're going to move these people out of Palestine is absurd and disgusting. What they should be saying is we're going to emancipate them. The more days of peace, the more... You know what? None of these people believe in democracy. They say, we're democratic. We're a democratic state. We believe in democracy. If you believed in democracy, you would give everybody a vote. You were born on this land. You come from this land for generations. You're a citizen of this land. Here's a vote. One person, one vote. They don't want to do that. Why? because they're a government that wants to choose the people. In democracy, it's the people that chooses the government. Not so in Israel. In Israel, it's the government that chose the people. We're going to expel certain races, and this particular people, an ethnostate, will now form a government. So it's a supremacist state. One race or religious ethnic group will have dominance over the natives. Listen, they did it to the natives. America did it to the natives. The Trail of Tears, President Jackson. He expelled the Native Americans. Don't tell me we're going to do it now in 2025 for the whole world to see on the internet. I thought humanity had moved forward from this kind of thinking. It's really abhorrent, disgusting, sad. There are better solutions. Honestly, I just don't think Donald Trump understands the Middle East. This is going to cause so much trouble. I really hope he doesn't think to put U.S. troops on the ground. I hope the Arabic world takes this as a wake-up call. Arab world needs to wake up in terms of science and technology. We need a quantum leap because they will never stop expanding. So long as Arab technology is never up to par, so long as the Arabs are not able to defend themselves fully, to defend their resources, and actually it's not just the Arabs, it's the Africans, it's the Asians, all of you. The whole world is under threat. The whole world, my friend. If you are not able to stand up to these imperialists, colonialists, they will destroy every resource you have. They will come and they will acquire any resource you have. They will take your land, they will take your resources, they will make you poor, and they will live rich, and they will say, oh, it's because you don't know better. But it's because you let them become more technologically advanced. Now, I know there's a lot of... I understand that technological superiority travels around the globe and through times. I get it. I'm not going to get into a whole spiel about that. I understand that part. But we got to thrive. The whole world needs to thrive to equal this gap, to mitigate this gap. Because the West is too far ahead and they're bullying the world. To say that, we're just going to take Gaza. I think that's disgusting. Honestly, I find that disgusting. You're literally defining a war crime. You're literally defining ethnic cleansing. A very sad time. Okay, guys, that was too much of a serious note to end it up on. Let's try to do something more lighthearted, and I'm going to wrap this up. Coach, have you watched any of Alex O'Connor, the atheist? Yes, I have, actually. I'm quite familiar with his rhetoric. I was actually listening to him today, actually. He's a very intelligent guy. Robbie G, Coach, any advice on how to find a good wife? Go back to the old country, my friend. Find some more conservative country. Try to find a more conservative wife. Look, if you want a girlfriend, if you want a girl, like they say here, a girl on the side, how they say, that's whatever. But if you want a wife, find conservative. Go conservative, my friend. All right, guys, I'm just sweeping to make sure I did every super chat. What was your game plan for when Cajun fought Islam? That's from Adam Rogers. Well, obviously, we wanted to keep it striking. You know, Cajun had suffered a broken orbital bone, and he was out for 3 years. He had a plate put in his orbital bone, and he had problems there. He had a lot of rehabbing to do, so he came back from a long way to make it back in UFC after that injury. It's quite astonishing. He had some bad losses, and he built himself back, got into UFC, fought Khamzat. Now, listen, the game plan obviously was to keep it striking, but Khamzat was too far ahead in the wrestling. There was too much of a differential in wrestling, and it was going to be a hard thing to do to avoid the takedown. And, of course, Khamzat's incredible on the ground as well. Fun question. Thoughts on the blockbuster Luka Doncic trade? I don't even know what that is. Let me look that up. Luka Doncic. What is this? What on earth are you making me look for? Blockbuster Luka Doncic trade. I don't. Is basketball? I don't know anything about basketball. I'm horrible at basketball. If you saw me play basketball, you think I'm like, you think I'm playing football. I only play street rules. When it comes to basketball, I like playing basketball. I'm just horrible at it. I like the sport. It's fun. Three pieces of advice for a growing jiu-jitsu school. That's from Roberto. Have basics class every day. Have punching bags and weights also. Make sure your students do conditioning and let them box a bit too. Don't just do strictly jiu-jitsu. So have a mat. Of course, very good jiu-jitsu basics. Get the basics perfect. And as your school develops, you can go into more complicated stuff. But start with a very strong basics program. And I'll tell you something, every jiu-jitsu practitioner also secretly wants to know how to throw a punch, how to defend himself boxing, because if he ever gets into a fight, he's not going to grab your partner's shirt and pull him down to the mat, right? Every man should know how to punch. So have a bag, have boxing classes here and there. And if you can, in the gym, if you're able to do it, have weights, have treadmills, have like row machines. Make sure your athletes can do conditioning. It'll make them far better. Coach, thoughts on the recent Bryce Mitchell comment? That's a dark. Listen, Bryce Mitchell thinks not Hitler was a good guy until he was on meth. Well, let me tell you something, Bryce. Let me just put it in a nutshell because I talked about it last podcast. He was a racist long before he got on meth. Okay, Adolf Hitler was an extreme racist long before he ever had any meth in his system. Okay, now, I don't know. I'm sure I hope Bryce Mitchell is not a racist. Maybe he doesn't understand Hitler. Hitler was an extreme racist. In Mein Kampf, he writes, "Without the German race, there's nothing but the dance of the apes," meaning like all other races are basically ape. There's the German race, the supreme race, of course. And everybody else, we're just getting out of ape. We're just growing out of the ape. We're still apes. We're not as far ahead as the Aryan race, the German race, the prime race, the supreme race. And Bryce Mitchell thinks, well, he's a good guy. You go fishing with him. Not knowing that Hitler was a vegetarian, doesn't eat fish. Ironically, he thought it was cruel to butcher animals. But man, did he think butchering human beings was okay. And this is also long before he ever got on meth. It's just, I'm sorry to say, quite ignorant. Very ignorant statements by Bryce Mitchell. Embarrassingly ignorant. You generalize people the same way Strickland does. That's from Nathaniel Springs. Well, I wish, Nathaniel, you'd give me like the when and where I said I generalized. Because I'm always being careful not to generalize. Okay, now I do believe you can generalize as long as you say, look, this is a generalization. I don't mean this for everybody. But by and large, this group has done this. Or that group is known for that. By and large. It doesn't mean because you're part of that group that you necessarily do this activity or whatnot. I'm always quite careful in doing that. So if I have mistakenly generalized, blanketly generalized, my apologies. But I don't think I have because I'm quite careful. But it could be. But I wish you would have put it there. Why? Like you put $2. Why don't you just say, Coach, you generalized. At one time you said this. If you did that, I would know what you're referring to. Bryce Mitchell thinks triangles and circles are demonic. Oh, one thing I heard him say was so dumb, man. He was like, the world doesn't move. The world is fixed. I go up in a helicopter and I hover around over the earth. And then I come down and I'm on the same spot. If the earth was moving, if the earth was really rotating, I wouldn't land on the same spot. Now would I? This is like basic physics. Like, I don't know why he doesn't ask like somebody in high school who studies physics, hey, how come when I go up in a helicopter and I come back down vertically, I land on the same spot? Like, I'm sure they have universities. Maybe, I don't know. There's got to be an Arkansas University. There has to be. Hold on. Arkansas University. University of Arkansas. I'm sure they have great wrestling too. Of course they have universities. Like there must be a physics. There's got to be 100%. I mean, it's complicated. It's not. It's like basic physics. Like I want to ask Bryce Mitchell. Okay, look. Imagine I'm in my car, and there's a fly in the back seat, and I'm driving the car at 100 kilometers an hour. Now the fly flies from the back seat to the front dashboard. All the while, I'm driving at 100 kilometers an hour. How did the fly catch up to the dashboard? How's that possible? Flies don't fly 100 kilometers an hour, Mr. Bryce Mitchell. How fast can a fly travel through the air? Well, it's definitely not 100 kilometers an hour. Well, Bryce, the fly being in the car is now moving at 100 kilometers an hour. Just like the helicopter on the earth is rotating with the earth. So when it goes up, it still has its rotational momentum. It's still traveling at high speeds. If the earth stopped rotating all of a sudden, we'd all fly in the direction that the earth was rotating in. That's why you wear seatbelts. He says, I don't wear seatbelts. Well, if I'm driving my car at 100 kilometers an hour and I run into a brick wall, the car stops traveling, but I'm still traveling. That's why I fly out the window. That's why the seatbelt attaches me to the car. So when the car stops, I stop. That's why we wear seatbelts. Now, I think his seatbelt comments were just like, I want to be able to wear the seatbelt or not wear the seatbelt. I don't think he thinks that they don't stop you from flying out of the window. But I'll tell you that he thinks they don't save lives. I think he kind of like alluded to they don't really save lives or whatnot, because I might have to jump out of the car and the seatbelt's on. It's like, how often do you need to jump out of a car to save yourself? Like, it's statistically more likely you need to be seatbelted to the seat to survive than to jump out of a car spontaneously. Like, if you had a world where everything's the same, except in one world they wear seatbelts, in the other world, when there's a smell of danger, they jump out of the car. I guarantee you, I highly like, I'll be so confident that the world where the people wear their seatbelt are gonna survive more car crashes. Because think about it, if you jump out of your car, well, you might get run over by a car, you might hit your head on the cement, you might 1,001 other dangers. Like, his way of thinking is just kind of ludicrous. It's just really insane to me. It's quite embarrassing, because people then think, MMA fighters are all stupid and they don't know what they're talking about. The whole helicopter traveling up vertically and coming back down in the same spot proves that the earth is not rotating. It's absurd. The helicopter is rotating before you take off. It is rotating. The whole helicopter is hovering in is also rotating. Everything is rotating. Everything is being pushed in a circular fashion. He's in a closed system. Bryce Mitchell can really, he could benefit from a physics course. Like, really, he can benefit. Met you in Sydney. So cool. One question. If you wanted to emulate GSP, what's one area of focus you would put me in to fight like him? GOAT finisher. That's from Mr. Billionaire. Met you in Sydney. So cool. Well, that's glad to... Mr. Billionaire. I wish you would have told me you were a billionaire when I met you in Sydney. But I'm glad we met. One question. If I wanted to emulate GSP, what's one area of focus you would put me in to fight like him. I would tell you he's very meticulous about his physical conditioning, and he's big into sprinting. He sprints regularly. I think he's been sprinting pretty much his entire life. He's a big believer in sprinting. He does a lot of fitness and a lot of sprinting. Sprinting is a big part of his fitness program. How could fighters live with all that head trauma? That's from Robbie. Well, hopefully you learn how to fight smart and you don't get too much head trauma. But Bryce he's got his fair share of damage, and I don't think it's just because of the punches to the head. I think that probably plays a very small role, but really I think he's just too blindly he's so accepting of the Bible but so critical of everything else. So I think it's more to do with the upbringing. Would you ever teach a karate striking instructional like Wonderboy Thompson or Michael Venom Page? That's from MTM. I have my own striking style, but part of it is karate. Don't forget, I'm also a black belt in karate. So I like to mix karate, Muay Thai, and boxing. Okay, so I do blend them together. But would I do just karate kind of instructional? No, I wouldn't. I just don't think it's like as realistic enough. I think karate needs to be mixed with boxing, at least. Then it works. But karate without boxing, in my opinion, wouldn't do well in the world today. And I think everybody knows that. Every modern karate practitioner does boxing. Missed 2 super chats? Is that possible? Okay, here we go. Okay, guys, please, no more super chats because I'm going to wrap this up shortly. I will do them all that I see here. Okay, here we go. This one's from Adam Rogers. If you had an overweight fighter like Roy or Nelson, Mark Hunt, Tai Tuvesa, would you highly encourage them losing weight, or is it to their benefit at that size? I think if you're a heavyweight, it's okay. I wouldn't emphasize it too much. It's generally better. Look, fat is just dead weight. It's not actually helping you move your body in any way. So it's just really hindering you. So I would give them a slight caloric deficit. But if you're too aggressive, if you go too much into make them lean, I think you can weaken their system. You can slow down their metabolism. So I would very gently try to chip away the fat, because like it took them a long time to put it on, it's going to take a long time for them to take it out. If you try to be too aggressive, I've seen coaches be too aggressive with fighters' weight loss. Michael Kogan, he's a PhD in nutrition, and he says, don't lose more than 0.5 pound a week. Anything more than that, it's going to hamper your performance. So I'm more like 1 pound a week max. And between fights, try not to add it all back on. I think that's where these guys shoot themselves in the foot. They binge, I don't think it's a good idea. I think you can relax your diet a little bit, but don't go too far away and put back 10 pounds, So I think it's 0.5 pound to 1 pound a week. I would shave off some of the fat, definitely. Okay, guys, let's end it on a fun one here. Please, no more super chats for now because I'm going to end this very shortly. Salam, coach. I'm 17 years old and revert from Scotland. How should I deal with stereotypes and secularism? That's from Reese. Reese, salam alaikum. Welcome to the faith. I would tell you, look, really educate yourself, because when people, listen, Muslims, we get a bad rap. We're always in the media. People are always trying to push us down. And there's a reason for it, okay? There's a reason. There's a historical reason where we don't like to pay interest. I think interest is one of the great plagues of the earth. It's one of the things that makes life miserable globally. I think one day people are going to stop paying interest. They're going to look back and be like, what were we thinking? How could we let them do this to us? It was a type of economical slavery. Now, I don't want you guys to confuse that with money lending. I think money lending for a certain price is fair, but interest, or excessive interest especially, I think is a plague on the earth. And the amount of wealth that's created by compound interest and excessive compound interest is absurd. The rich don't have to produce anything, yet they get richer and richer. It's a plague on the earth. That's why we're out there in the world fighting so hard. Why? Because we got to pay our house 3 times over. So I got to kill myself. Trying to make that extra dollar. And I got to have to step on you to get that extra dollar. And they love it. They sit back and they watch us fight for that extra dollar that we got to give to them. So we're doing all the work and we're stepping on one another. And we think we got to fight each other tooth and nail. Why? Because there's some banker pushing a button. When he pushes that button, he creates wealth out of thin air, and now you owe him that dollar. Why? Because he lent it to you. He lent it to you because he controls the ledger. That's why, you guys, you know me, I've talked about Bitcoin. I don't like to give people financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm telling you, in my own personal finance, I buy a lot of Bitcoin. Why? Because I believe Bitcoin is the way humanity, is one way humanity is going to be able to get the bankers off our back. And when I mean bankers, I mean all the banks around the world who charge excessive interest, especially excessive compound interest. I bought a house, but I got to pay 3 times over before the banker lets me have it. I find that to be excessive. I have to work 20 or 30 years. Why? Why can't I buy it for a fair price? Why do I have to pay 3 times its worth? I think it to be obsessive. And if I do pay it early, they charge me fees. There's just no way for me to get away. There's just no way for me to work and trade for my labors and what I contributed to society, get a fair deal. No, they want me to pay it over and over again. So they're always 20, 30, 50 times richer than the richest man. It's crazy, and I can't wait till humanity wakes up against this. You're a classy coach. Thank you, CXK. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Coach, can you play any instrument? That's from Larry Bird. No, I used to play guitar when I was much, much younger, but gave it up. I went heavy into Jiu-Jitsu and never really had any time for anything else. I'm really focused on martial arts. Coach, do you believe God has parts? That's from Low Fight. Low Fight IQ. No, I don't think that's an appropriate question. It'll be like saying, hey, it's kind of like God is beyond having parts or no parts. Okay, I believe God is one, but I think that has a very special meaning. I don't believe God has parts in how a computer has parts or a car has parts. No. If God had parts, he would be dependent on his parts. So my car has parts. It depends on parts. If I take away one part, a crucial part, the whole thing doesn't work. If I take out if I take off a wheel or if I take off a spark plug, the whole thing doesn't work anymore. It's dependent on that piece. You can't say that about God. Okay, so in that sense, God is one. He depends on nothing. Coach, could you debate Christian Prince? That's from Rainbow. Yes, I could, but I don't think listen, I would debate with anybody who's sincere. Like they want to have an exchange of ideas. Him is only wanting to do gotcha moments. He wants to clip it and make a viral video where there's insulting and it's like the Jerry Springer show, the Maury show. And then he's going to get more views, more clicks, more advertisement. It's all about money. It's all like, you have to be very careful when you try to get knowledge from people like that. Okay, you want to get knowledge from people who are scholars. Like, would you remember, liken it to martial arts? Christian Prince is like the guy who says like, I have this secret training system and I could beat anybody. Okay, well, get in the ring. Oh no, I'm too deadly. It's like, okay, whatever. Which one of your students is your best student? Does he win anything? No, I forbid my students because they're so dangerous. It's like you can never see them in action. Now, Christian Prince, he would never write a book and have PhDs review it because they would think his work is ridiculous. Like I remember, people send me about Christian Prince. Oh, you got to listen to this guy. So I listened to a little bit of his stuff. One video, and I swear to you, I'm not saying, you guys are going to think I'm lying here. He says he wanted to go to university because he doesn't have a PhD. So he's trying to explain to people why he doesn't have a degree. He said, I went to university. I wanted to sign up into religious studies. And when I met the dean of when I went to the religion department, he said I met with the dean, and the dean was telling me how he watches these YouTube videos. So Christian Prince was like, "Whoa, what do you mean you watch YouTube videos?" And he's like, "Listen to this video. This guy's really interesting. He's very intelligent." And Christian Prince is saying the dean was playing one of my videos. So he's like, I swear to you, I'm not joking. In this video, he says, I didn't go to university because all they would do is teach me my videos. So I decided I don't need to go to university. So he's saying to us that the reason why he doesn't have a degree is because people with degrees are actually learning from him. So he's an authority in religion. So scholars of Christianity, he's claiming, like, how absurd this is. This is insane, guys. This is so crazy. He's saying, like, if this was a Muslim guy, I'd be so embarrassed of him. I'd be like, guys, please, just, he has a mental illness. He's not right in the head. Just ignore him. He's not right in the head. Let him be. You know, he's not, his faculties are not there. That's exactly, like, I wouldn't praise the guy. I find Christians that praise him, you're embarrassing yourself. It's really humiliating. Because also his behavior is quite vile. Like, he swears, he curses, he insults. He obviously has he's bipolar. He has something. He's not a normal human being. His arguments are absurd. Like, I can't believe people actually wasted my time with this. To be honest with you guys, I'm just trying to be honest. Like, he said the Quran has a trinity. Okay, so I'm like, okay, let me hear his argument for why Quran has a trinity. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Quran starts with, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. So that's 3 names of God. The name of Allah, God. Allah is the word for God in Arabic. Okay. The most gracious, the most merciful. That's 3 names. There's your Trinity. God has 3 parts, but that's insane because God calls himself from many other names in the Quran. Literally, if you count all the names in Islam that we have for God, it's over 2,000. Now, God in Islamic tradition has infinite names. Infinite. Yes, we boil it down to 99, but that's like 99 of the most known, well-known names. Okay, so this is another whole story to the 99. There's no actual canon of 99. But that's a topic for another day. He's trying to say, look, this is my proof that the Quran says the Quran has a trinity. Now, anybody who studied the Quran knows that the Quran has explicit verses saying there is no such thing as a trinity. That these are things the Romans and pagans did and you're copying them. Meaning the Christians are influenced by the pagans. There's no scholar in the world, Muslim or not, who's a PhD in Islam that says that the Quran preaches Trinity. Like, it's just such an absurd, ridiculous, moronic. I'm using the word moronic in a academic sense. And the fact that he's claiming that he doesn't go to university to study religion because the university studies his videos, so therefore he's the authority of religion, is psychotic. That's just insane. That's such an insane thing to say. Okay, so how about you write an essay, publish it publicly, that you are the authority, and people laugh at him. People don't even know his name. Like, scholars don't even know he exists. It's kind of like a guy in his basement training martial arts, trying to convince people he's the most deadliest guy. He's the guy who conditioned, and I'm assuming he's the guy who convinced David Wood to go on public debate with Muhammad Hijab and claimed the Quran, God in the Quran worships Muhammad. It was the worst argument ever. There's no Orientalist, meaning somebody who is a PhD in Islam that's not Muslim, who ever claimed such a thing. Like, the argument was so bad. It's humiliating. And believe me, there are many intelligent Christians, much more intelligent, much more sophisticated than Prince. This guy, Prince. They call him Prince, Christian Prince. James White is far more sophisticated, far more intelligent, far more honest, far more... he's a much better representative of Christianity. These guys are an embarrassment to Christianity. And like, there's a much more well-respected thinkers in Christianity, intelligent, articulate, friendly, kind, who are like a good representation. But these guys are like stooges, like, honestly, fools. And you can't dialogue with them because they don't want to hear your point. They're all about propaganda. Why? Clicks, money. Patreon. Give me money. There's a new way now. What you got to do if you want to make money, okay, just find a group, attack that group. It doesn't have to be Islam, it could be any group. And people who hate that group are going to give you money. It's a new trend now. The internet, people find new ways. I just find like you're just spreading hatred in the world. You're not actually trying to exchange ideas or get to the bottom or to develop your understanding of something. You're just trying to get the money. So you're going to say stupid and dumb things. You're going to say ridiculous things to get clicks by people who just want to rally and hate a particular group. It's just spreading hate. I don't know. I just find it like, if you brought me a very intelligent and sophisticated Christian who has an interest in exchanging ideas, I would love to dialogue with such a person. And I often do, believe me. I often do. Not necessarily publicly, but I often do. Dario says, 90 minutes later and I still have the pin of shame. All right. I'll let you off the hook. I'm going to put this pin. Replace pin message. All right. I put you in the pin for 90 minutes. Now I'm going to refresh your pin. Dario's the man. Dario, you know what, guys? I'm going to officially put Dario. Dario, you're a gentleman and a scholar. How about that? Huh? Does that redeem you? Would you go on Ariel Helwani's show? That's from Adam Rogers. Yes, I would definitely go on Ariel Helwani's show. Greeting, Coach. Do you have any goals for Ramadan this year? That's from Zach. I have to think about it. Well, to do my Ramadan just perfectly. That would be amazing. But any special goals? I really thought about that. All right, guys. I have to put an idiot in timeout. All right. Nobody was able to give me a fun one. Everybody's giving me serious questions. Coach, watch Animal movie. Check out trailer first. Okay, let's hope this is fun. Hold on. I'm not going to play it live because you probably... Hopefully it's nothing bad. Animal movie. It's an Indian movie? It's kind of weird because they're speaking a little bit of English here and there. All right, I'll try to have a look at it later, but it looks kind of weird because they're speaking Indian. Meaning like they speak a little English and then a lot of Indian. Coach, have you trained in any Boston gym? That's from Anchor. Well, I've trained at the Kenny Florian's Academy back in the day, but I haven't been there in over a decade. How would you respond to Alex O'Connor's perspective? That's from Adam Rogers. Which perspective? What do you mean exactly? Be specific, because he has many views, but I'm not familiar with all his views. It's not like I've studied his work, but I have listened to his dialogues for sure. Salam, Coach. We would love to send you, your athletes, a sample pack of wrist rides, MMA gloves with Velcro cover. We're confident you guys will love them and would be very interested in your feedback. They will be on Amazon soon. That's from Harris. Harris, send them to the gym, and I will give them a try. And if you give me a few of them, I'll hand them out to the guys. I'll be very happy to try them out. I'm always looking for a good new piece of equipment. The man from Nepal, my boy who's actually from Nepal. Salam, Coach. Where is your GOAT Muay Thai fighter? Who is your GOAT Muay Thai fighter in the golden age? Oof. Well, Samat for sure. Shamrock. Look up Shamrock. He's arguably my favorite Muay Thai fighter as well. Of course, Sagat. Sagat, of course, obviously. But other than Sagat, because I train with Sagat, so obviously I'm going to be biased and say Sagat. But Shamrock was also phenom. Absolute phenom. Check out Shamrock. Don't forget to watch that film. We'll have a lot to talk about. Okay, guys, I'm going to try to take a look at just the trailer. I don't think I'll watch the film, though. All right, guys, I really got to end this now. I know it's been an hour. I'm trying to end it. Give me something funny, something a little bit funny or cool to end up with. What do you think about Buakaw? Okay, guys, I'm going to end it on this. Buakaw is a legend, guys. I just wish they would teach him boxing. I wish he would go to Cuba and study boxing. Have you seen James Cameron's Exodus Decoded? No, I haven't. Guys, please, no more super chats. Actually, I might have. Is that the one where he tries to explain all the plagues in a scientific way? I think, yeah, no, I did see that one. Guys, what do I think about Buakaw? I wish they would teach him to box a little bit more. I find that if he had more of a boxing combination, he'd be arguably the greatest fighter of all time in Muay Thai. I definitely wouldn't put him as the greatest fighter of all time right now. He'd be on the list of top 15 for sure, but not the greatest. If he had incredible boxing like Sagat, I think he could have been the greatest fighter of all time. Hello, coach. Take care of Nazrat Moroccan line. Inshallah, Ryan. I will. I'm doing my best. I will, inshallah. Guys, thank you all for tuning in. I hope to see you all in the next episode. Don't forget to like and share.